Okay, so this one is a diagram I put together. It's in one of my books. It might be in quantification, but what it's showing is kind of two different diagrams. The one on the bottom is the natural world, and the one on the top is human culture. So let's start with the one on the bottom. And all of these are working with golden rectangles. So the golden ratio has kind of a quality of self-similarity. And you see that with this characteristic spiral, you know? So if we look at the biggest golden rectangle, it has this proportion of 1 to 5. And if you look on the spiral where it goes all the way in, I've left a black rectangle there. But that little black rectangle has the same proportion. So you can imagine that this could spiral in forever, but I've just sort of truncated it there and put black in there for simplicity. All right. Now, these golden rectangles can stack on each other and form a kind of ladder. And that's what I'm applying to time. So at the bottom of the diagram, we have the formation of the Earth. And then a huge amount of time passes until we come to the next milestone on this golden scale, which is the development of photosynthetic bacteria. Okay. Then another big chunk of time passes, but not as much, and we get multicellular life. Okay. And then again, animals form, vertebrates, and in the final moment, humans. Okay. So this is one way of looking at the vast expanse of time and kind of shifting the narrative from a linear discussion to something that's based on the golden ratio. Does that appeal to you? Do you understand where I'm coming from with that, Geoff?
Yeah, I'm totally digging this, Scott. I love it. Yeah. And I'm just kind of what I'm thinking about. It's like the golden ratio seems to demarcate these very sort of important moments in our evolution from the formation of the earth. So I totally can follow this. And
it's kind of the story
time,
from the beginning of the earth all the way up to the beginning of
yeah.
science. Yeah.
And you're cascading these golden ratios, these increments of time into like, which are like seminal moments, you know, and you can't argue with the formation of the earth, a pretty big deal. We're not going to be here without it. The photosynthetic bacteria, again, this is the beginning of life. There's another huge jump to multicellular life. What I'm liking is this cascading of the golden ratio windows get smaller and smaller. And I'm curious because now from vertebrates to humans is this tiny little gap. But what comes next? You know,
Yeah,
what's
so
the next golden
what's next
ratio?
is sort of the upper diagram, sort of blown up. So within that human thing, now we've been anatomically modern humans for, let's say, 200,000 years. And I'm not showing that here. What I'm showing in the upper diagram is cultural history. So I'm saying that our culture sort of began when we started to domesticate animals. Okay, that's kind of a milestone. And then a huge amount of time passed with us living with our farm animals until we invented the wheel. Okay, that was a huge milestone that transformed a lot. And that was about 4,000 BC. And then another big chunk of time passed until we invented writing. And you could say that's sort of the beginning of history because we have records of it. Going up this golden scale, we have the rise of city states where people started living together in cities. And then the next milestone would be the end of antiquity, which is kind of the beginning of the calendar that we use today. And then the last moment, we have the present. And so I don't know exactly when writing was invented, or I don't know exactly who invented the wheel and what year. So take this with a grain of salt. It's just a lens that I'm looking through at history, and I'm seeing a correlation there with the golden ratio. And I hope it gives you food for thought about the nature of time. Is this sort of, it may not be linear. It may be more based on the golden ratio. I think that's fascinating. You know, it has this kind of quality of acceleration, which is what we're experiencing in culture. More has happened in the last 100 years than in the previous 1,000, you know? It's incredible. Yeah.
What's lovely about this diagram, Scott, is you could do like fractal versions of it. Like, you know, even you know what I'm thinking about when I look at the cascading increments of time here? Let's say since you and I were born, you know, like I don't think the computer was even invented, or maybe there was some ancient computer when we were born, you
It was
know?
like filling a warehouse, and it was used to like decode
Yeah.
things. But since we were born, the population of the Earth has more than doubled. I mean,
Mm,
think about that. That's
I know.
insane.
It's insane,
Yeah.
yeah. And then this. I'm thinking if you did a tech version of this and took seminal moments in kind of tech evolution, from the birth of the silicon chip or the processor or whatever. I'm curious to see if the golden ratio as a kind of a beautiful lens to look at like the evolution of progress in a certain area
Well, and it
can be
reminds me of
broken
how the
down.
golden ratio is used in analyzing the stock market and the crypto markets. There's this,
Yeah,
it's applied to that. It can be applied to very small time scales of a course of a day.
yeah, it's
And so
incredible.
it's a very useful um, scale or way of looking at things that change over time. So
It's
I
like a
think it has a
tool.
fundamental relationship with time that's sort of underappreciated. And
Mm,
I would love to hear what you think about it, how you've used the golden ratio, and have you ever thought about using that in time?
mhm.